Good evening to those in attendance gathered in social media land. I am Stephen Crawford, bossless of the Distinguished Beta Rho chapter of the Omega Psi Phi Fraternity Incorporated, and it is my esteemed honor to welcome you to this event this evening. Whether you are viewing it in real time or after live streaming has concluded. October is recognized as Domestic Violence Awareness Month. So the members of both Beta Rho chapter and the Greenwood, Itta, Bena Alumnae chapter of Delta Sigma Theta Sorority Incorporated solicited voices of experience with these terrible circumstances to help spread a message that could benefit some of our viewers who may currently face one of these forms of abuse. In all things of great importance, it is essential to begin with going into prayer. So if you would join me as we go to the Lord in prayer. Dear Heavenly Father, of many names and nations, we come to you humbly asking that you heal the sick and guide the weary to a place of comfort in these dark days. Please allow the messages and responses provided this evening to reach the appropriate ears as we strive to redeem and better mankind. Yes. We thank you for the panelists that have the strength to share their testimonies and wisdom from their experiences. And please continue to bless the families of those that have passed as a result of domestic violence. Yes, Lord. These are other blessings we pray. In your unmatchless name, amen. Amen.
Amen.
We will now have greetings from the illustrious president of the Greenwood, Itta, Bena Alumnae chapter of Delta Sigma Theta Sorority Incorporated, Dr. Valerie Simpson. Immediately afterwards, we will hear from the founder of No More Domestic Violence, Mrs. Cheryl Featherstone, and she will introduce our wonderful presenters and panelists for this evening. So now we will hear from Dr. Simpson.
Good evening.
Good evening.
I would like to, first of all, thank the women of No More Violence, especially our chapter member, Cheryl Featherstone, and the men of Beta Rho chapter of the Omega Psi Phi Fraternity for allowing us to share this platform this evening. It is our feeling that we should take every opportunity to shine a light on domestic violence awareness, not only during the month of October, but year round, because of the many domestic violence issues, the many forms of domestic violence that women endure, and because of the trickle-down effect that domestic violence has on family members and friends of the abused. I hope that tonight's audience gains not only knowledge about the many faces of domestic violence, but also a desire to help those who have found themselves in abusive relationships. Thank you again for allowing the Greenwood, Itta, Bena Alumnae chapter of Delta Sigma Theta to be a part of tonight's conversation. And I hope that you all find this presentation informative.
Good evening, everyone. Again, I'd like to thank Brother Bossless Crawford for allowing this opportunity for us, and also my Madam President Simpson, Dr. Simpson, for allowing it as well. We are delighted to be here. Any opportunity we have to spread awareness, we are elated. We are No More Domestic Violence Awareness and Prevention Organization. One of the things we're noted for is our calendar of domestic violence survivors. We started in 2019, and we have some of our original members, also board members, board directors for the organization our own, and I will introduce them. But I want to talk about first, before I introduce them and we begin the discussion, domestic violence. A lot of people think of domestic violence as physical and intimate partner, mostly abusing women. But tonight we want to talk about the different faces of domestic violence. Domestic violence is not only physical, although we're going to talk about that. We have one of the calendar girls, Miss January 2024, is going to address physical abuse, but also emotional and mental abuse, also sexual abuse. And a lot of people don't realize that, you know, you can be in a marriage and still be sexually abused, even when if you're not okay with it at the time, then that's abuse, if you will. But it does happen, unfortunately. Also financial abuse. So on our panel tonight, and y'all just wave if you don't mind, covering physical abuse, we have Miss Yolanda. We use first names only, but I'll let them introduce themselves however they like. Miss Yolanda is Miss January 2024, so you'll see her in our calendar, January 2024. Also, emotional and mental abuse will be covered by Rayshawn. She's our Miss June 2019, and she was also Miss June 2020. We also have tonight covering sexual abuse, Kathy. She also has her own organization. We partner with other organizations as well. Kathy is our Miss December 2019. She's one of the original members and board directors. Also covering financial abuse is April. She is our Miss March 2024, and she is brand new to us. We also want to cover questions that are commonly asked of us, asked of domestic violence survivors, but you may be uncomfortable asking us. So we're just gonna put it out the way for you because we don't mind talking about it. That is, why don't you just leave? We get that all the time. So Leslie, Miss February 2019, is going to cover that question. Also, how can I help this is another question we get calls about this. How can I help my daughter, my granddaughter, my son, my niece, my nephew? Because of course, men are abused too. And covering that is our very own Miss August 2022, and she's also Miss August 2024, Jacqueline. Can't just wait. And in a relationship with a survivor, I have Mr. Mayor Ken Featherstone is also, we honored him as our Mr. July 2023, because we think it's important, especially our the men of Omega and men listening tonight, to know what you deal with when you fall in love or marry or in a relationship with a domestic violence survivor. So he's going to talk about that. That's important too. So we're just going to get started, and we'll get started with physical abuse. And Yolanda, take it away.
Hi, my name is Yolanda. I'm a survivor of domestic violence. I have told my testimony many times, and tonight just seemed like the perfect time to get the message across, because physical abuse happened, well, really don't have a time for when it happened. And I think that's the most scariest thing to me, because with my abuser, it was just random. He didn't even have to be mad in order to hit me. But in 2006, my life changed forever. And I tell people that all the time, because that's the night that I think I seen the devil's son. I decided to end the relationship with him, and he wasn't having it. He didn't know how to let go. So me and my daughter went to the house, and that we once shared, me and my abuser, and I wanted to gain my life back. I guess I could say that, because I got tired of running, just felt like I just couldn't stop running. And I told my daughter that we was going out to the house, and I was gonna go and get, we was gonna go and clean up, and I had the devil's son waiting on me, hiding in the house. And I would tell anybody, if you find somebody that love to play games, run for your life, because 9 times out of 10, they're gonna start playing with your mind. And we ran up on him in the house, and he just was, I had never seen him like that before. He was just so angry. All because I in a relationship that I no longer wanted to be in. So in the midst of that night, we ended up being beat with iron, me being stabbed in the leg, and the punches that I received in my mouth and upside my head was just unbearable. He burnt my hair out. He cut my hair out. And could you imagine just you sitting there, and this man is the one you thought loved you at one point, just grab your hair and just snatch it and I could literally hear it now, how my hair was tearing out of my head when he was cutting it out with the knife. I could actually, sometimes I find myself patting my head for no reason because I can remember that night. Just as plain as it's like it just don't go away. But we ended up on a road that no one came down. The things he did before that was unbearable. I knew that it was going to lead to something when he told me that he had bought my daughter some clothes and that he wanted her to pay him back. And I looked at him and told my daughter didn't have a job, so I didn't understand why he would say that. And he just looked out of the rearview mirror at her. And I said to him, I know you're not thinking what I think you're thinking. Well, he was thinking that and then some. He was thinking about all the times he watched her, and I would catch him watching her and didn't say anything out of fear. So that night turned into the worst night of my life, because when he parked that car and he then did whatever it is he felt he needed to do to me, I ended up having to crawl on my knees to try to save my baby because he was about to rape her. And he did rape her. And my daughter was 15 years old. And she was saving herself for her husband. And I think that's something that mothers and parents in general need to watch who your kids around. I'm not going to get into that because I'm quite sure somebody else is going to get into it. I'm about the physical. But he had us out there for, I'll say 12 hours, felt like a month. Huh. That was the longest night of my life because of the things that me and my daughter endured. But when morning came and I had to call my other two children to tell them bye, that was the most hurting thing because I didn't know how things was going to turn out. I didn't know if I was going to live. All I knew is he told me that he was going to kill me. And I'm thinking, like, I have young children. I think that's the thing that was running through my mind, was my kids were so young and they was going to have to bury their mother because of the choices I made. And I was the one that was supposed to protect them, but at that moment I couldn't. So he ended up, after he raped my daughter, the morning came and I talked to my children. He ended up throwing my daughter the cell phone, and she had a sheet wrapped around her, a bloody sheet I'll never forget. And I'm looking out of my rearview mirror at my daughter as he drove away. And I couldn't do nothing but cry. And I watched my daughter until I got out, till she was out of my sight and I couldn't see her no more. And he takes me to Arkansas, where he let me call my aunt. I didn't know whether my daughter was dead or alive. I didn't know what was going on with her. And come to find out, she had called my aunt and told my uncle to come and get her, that what had happened, that she had been raped by my ex, and he had me. So I called my aunt, and she immediately took the number down to the sheriff department, and that's how I was able to be rid of him, just to get rid of him, because it seemed like the police wasn't really on my side. They was like fearing for their own life pertaining to him, because he had fought every last one of them. It was like he didn't care. So we ended up coming back into Mississippi, and we had a high-speed chase. And with that high-speed chase, we have a blowout because he's going, we're not on paved road, we're in a field, and he's giving this car everything it can go in a field. So we hit a bank, and when we hit that bank, it blew a tire out. So when the tire blew out, I heard the police officer telling him on the radio to pull over. And all he was saying was, I'm not going back to jail. I'm not going back to jail. So the same knife that he had stabbed me with, he asked me, he said, do you, where the knife at? Where the knife at? Do you see the knife? When he went in the store, I put that knife up under the seat. And I kept telling him, no, I don't see the knife. I knew where the knife was, but all he had to do was reach over and stab me with the knife anywhere and just kill me. So that was my first reaction, was to get the knife and hide it. So once we hit the bank and he bag up, we on 3 tires. So we going to Inverness, Mississippi. And he's coming on to incoming traffic, going fast as he can go on 3 tires. And all I hear this man ask me, was I ready to die? And I couldn't say anything. All I heard the Spirit say was, put my head behind his back. And I did exactly that. And when I did that, all I heard was a boom. And the police, he got out of the car. The police pulled him out of the car and told him, if you move, I'll blow your brains out. And at this point, I'm trying to see where I'm at. I know where I'm at, but I really don't know where I'm at. I hear the police. I hear the sirens. I see the ambulance once my head come up. And all I could say to them was, please get me from this man. Please save me, save me. Because I knew that if I didn't get away, he was going to find a way to try to kill me. So I go into the ambulance and I hear nothing else of him until I get ready to go and get my little cousin from the airport. And they tell me what hospital he's in, because after the accident, he ended up in a wheelchair. So after I found out what hospital he was in, I want to go, and I'm just being honest, I want to go over there. I want to go to the hospital and do something. Because all I could think about was what he did to me and my daughter that night, and it wasn't fair. She didn't deserve that. I kept telling him she had nothing to do with it. He didn't want to hear that. So we ended up, I ended up not going after my daughter talked me out of it. We ended up coming back, and I have to go to court in order to face him. And I'd never forget that day. I bent down in the bathroom. I fell down, actually. And my daughter, the same one that he raped, told me, Mama, if you don't get up and fight, they're going to let him out and he's going to finish where he started with us. She was the only one who could give me strength at that moment, because I was so weak. I was just tired of the whole thing. And I felt like I had let her down. And I was like, well, you know, I thought I didn't have fight in me. But when I looked in her eyes, that's what made me get up off that floor and go and face him. And even though he sat in that courtroom, he still sat with bandages over his head, looking at me, trying to intimidate me. He was trying to abuse me from me sitting on the stand and him sitting in handcuffs. He still was trying to have that control and that power over me. So once the judge got finished, she told me, she said, you will never have, she said, this is the worst story I ever heard. She said, but you and your daughter going to live your life because you will never have to worry about him again. And they gave him 125 years, fed, federal time, and he have to do, I think he doing like, I really don't know the time, but I do have the paperwork. He's doing his federal time now, and I think that's like 45 years. So that's the best news I could have ever gotten out of that situation, because I felt like justice was done. A lot of people don't get what I got. And for that, I'm thankful. And I just continue to pray for the ones that are going through now. So my name is Yolanda. That is my story. If you all have any questions, I am free to answer them. And I thank you all for y'all time and y'all patience in hearing my story.
Thank you so much, Yolanda. Yes, like I said, physical abuse is the most well-known of domestic violence, of the faces of domestic violence. And now we'll have Rayshawn, who is our Miss June 2019 and 2020, and she's going to talk to us about emotional and mental abuse. And mind you, all of the presenters tonight have gone through some kind of abuse. So we can tell our stories from experience, actually. So Rayshawn, please take it away.
Hello, everyone. Welcome to this very worthy discussion. I pray that something is received by you that you can share with someone who may find themselves in a domestic violence situation and allow them to get out of it, find their no more moment. I would like to start by first defining what emotional abuse is. Emotional abuse involves attempts to frighten, control, or isolate you. It may involve threats of violence directed towards you or loved ones. It leads to mental health issues such as depression, anxiety, PTSD, substance and alcohol abuse. Emotional abuse, in my opinion, is one of the ones that sneaks up on you because it's not as obvious as physical. It starts very subtly. It could be humiliation, negating you, criticizing you profusely, controlling you, where you're going, who you're going with, gaslighting you, emotional blackmail, threatening to tell your business to people, telling your intimate secrets that you've shared with them with other people in the hopes that it would embarrass you or make you look bad to those people. And just the unpredictability. You never know when they're going to fly off the handle. Any day is a good day to get it. Accusing and blaming you, being in denial. They may be extremely jealousy. That's not love and it's not cute. Guilt trips, unrealistic expectations of you, destroying your belongings. They may not ever hit you, but they may break things that are dear to you. Family heirlooms, picture frames, necklaces that are dear to you, or punch the wall right next to your head. Things of that thing, again, to elicit a fear from you. Emotional neglect and isolation. They keep you from socializing, come between you and your family members, give you the silent treatment, withhold affection, all the things that they know bring you joy. They're going to withhold those things from you. They're going to give you the silent treatment. And what does that do? It automatically throws you into, how can I fix this mode? Well, you can't fix it. Don't try to fix them. But you can encourage them to work with a therapist. Therapy works. Avoid self-blame. You never deserve abuse, regardless of what you've said or what you've done. And I would repeat that. You never deserve abuse, regardless of what you've said or what you've done. Prioritize your needs, set boundaries, reach out for support, and leave the abusive situation. Avoid engaging with them if possible. Don't respond to text messages, phone calls, emails, and have somebody with you if you can at all times. Set personal boundaries. Things like, if you call me names, I'll go home. Or if you start teasing me in public, I'll leave. Build a support network. Therapy works. There are organizations such as No More, the YWCA, Work in Progress. There are several organizations that can help you get you back, can help you find your voice. Exit the relationship, state it clearly that the relationship is over. Cut off all ties, block them from social media, block their numbers, and do the whole nine. Or you may have to do like me and just relocate to a whole new state. Give yourself time to heal. Focus on your needs, your recovery. Create self-care routines, things that make you feel good about you. Because over time, like myself, you may find that you lose yourself, your sense of, who am I? If not the wife or the mother of the children, who am I? Like, really, who am I? Because prior to that, no one could have ever told me that I would have found myself in a situation like that. So I lost me. Now, I've heard people say, well, I'm going to go here, I'm going to do this and that so that I can find myself. Well, I didn't want to find me because she fell for the okie doke. I wanted to recreate me. I have always been a believer. And I know that, you know, when you believe in God and you accept him in your life, that old things are passed away. And behold, all things become new. And I wanted to be new. I wanted to walk in my purpose. I wanted to find my purpose. And I wanted to be everything that God said that I am. And everything that he ever said to me to break me down, to tear me down, I looked that devil straight in the face and said, that's a lie. I am above and not beneath. I am worthy. I am worth it. I'm worth it. Now, it took a long time for me to get that in. I'm not going to tell you that it happened overnight, that it was a TD Jakes woman thou art loose experience. It was not. It took me years. And I don't want you to get bogged down into the why you leave, the how you leave. Don't get bogged down into that. But just remember, if you've ever taken more than 3 flights, I know you know the speech that the stewardess would give, the flight attendants will give you, where they say, in case of emergency or turbulence experienced on the plane while in flight, and cabin pressure decreases, the mask will fall down. You take the mask, place it on yourself first, and then you can help others. So I'm speaking to the mothers. I left my situation because I saw my children exhibiting the toxic behaviors that he and their father was showing them, teaching them. Okay, because that's what we're doing. When we stay in these unhealthy, toxic relationships, our children think it is okay, and it's not okay. I want to focus also on that. Give yourself time to heal. Focus on your needs and the things that you have. If you're married and you find yourself in this situation, I implore you to seek legal advice and the assistance of organizations such as No More and YWCA. Mental abuse, 30 to 60% of women with mental health problems have experienced domestic violence. That's huge. That's huge. We try to go along to get along. My person told me, oh, you want to leave me now? I thought you wanted to break generational curses. Another time that the devil was a lie. You will not use my desires against me. You won't use my words against me. You won't use me against me. You know, yes, I wanted to break generational curses, but then it came to me that divorces were created for a purpose and for a reason. Because you are worth it. And no matter how long you've been beaten down, no matter how much of yourself has been stripped from you, know that it is okay not to be okay. Perfectly fine. It's perfectly fine. That broken place is perfectly fine. You know why? Because that's the exact moment that God can come in and put you back together. He can renew you. He can restore you. He can lift you back up. And I promise you, because I'm walking in it today, I'm stronger than I've ever been. I'm wiser than I've ever been. I am better, much better. Thank you, Marvin Sapp. I'm much better. There is life after. But you must choose you. You must choose you, and don't depend on others to choose you. And know that you're worthy to be loved. And it starts with you loving you, because you don't allow anything to hurt the things you love. So start with you. We're going to put the mask on ourselves and then others, so that we can be emboldened, we can be brave, and we can share our testimonies and we can share our stories with other women who look just like us or not, that has experienced the same things that we have, and they see no hope. but they can look at you. One of my favorite scriptures in the Bible is Peter and John was going into the city and the beggars were out there and they like, look, silver and gold have I none, but such as I have, look on me. I may not have enough money to buy you something to get out of your situation, but I promise you, I got a ready word for you. I promise you, you can look at my story. I had to leave the state of Alabama and move to Florida. Why? Not because he was on my trail so much so, but because I wasn't strong enough to leave and stay gone. That's my truth. I loved him just like that. When I wasn't angry anymore, I would go back. That was my 4th time leaving. Okay? So don't let anybody tell you that it was a immediate type of situation. Don't let anybody else try to minimize your situation. If it's devastating to you, it is devastating. Okay? If it is unbearable for you, it is unbearable. If it is time to go for you, it is time to go, whether anybody else understands, because if you're anything like me, you didn't share your business with people outside of the home. So everybody outside looking in must think that you're perfect, but you know you're not. Again, put the mask on yourself and then you can help others. I thank you for your time. I thank you for your attention, and I will be around for questions. Thank you.
Sean, before you go, will you clarify, you used a term that may not be familiar to those who are not part of our DV, domestic violence community. You mentioned gaslighting. Will you explain that?
Sure. I actually wrote that down because, we tend to use buzzwords a lot today, and we just say things and just say it amiss. But gaslighting causes someone to question their own sanity, memories, or perception of reality. So a person could be doing something to you and they're like, what are you talking about? I wouldn't dare do that to you. Or you can say, when you was telling my business at the church, trying to embarrass me, I didn't like that. I wish you wouldn't do that to me. I was only giving a testimony. But you don't want to help other people? Of course you want to help other people, right? Gaslighting you, okay? Tell your own business. Don't tell mine. Tell your testimony. You can't give my testimony. But what they have you thinking like, wait a minute, did that really just happen? Am I overreacting? No, you're not overreacting.
Imagine that being constant. So,
and it is constant.
And mental abuse that victims are enduring, even if you've never been physically hit by an abuser. Emotional scars, this is why you hear that emotional scars are deeper, because the physical wounds can heal, but the emotional wounds, you questioning your own sanity, you questioning yourself, it remains. I remember with my situation, I didn't trust myself to even date again. I just said, I'm not going to date. I don't choose well. And so that was part of mine. But I just wanted you to clarify gaslighting. If you all have any more questions about that, she'll definitely entertain now, or we can wait to the end. But thank you so much, Rayshawn, for that information.
You're welcome.
All right, so covering sexual abuse, we have Kathy, who is our first ever Miss December 2019.
Good evening, everyone. Good evening. It's an honor. It's a blessing to be on to share these topics and then just to hear the testimonies. And not only that, there's strength, from being a survivor. And not only that, a thriver. With my story, I dealt with years of abuse. A lot of mine occurred, actually, I'm a two-timer. One was earlier when I was in college with a gentleman, and the other one was when I was later on 35, something like that. I'm old now, but anyway, in church. And I would say mine, I kind of tell mine and to share people that mine remind you of an onion. because mine was layers. If you think of an onion, it's special purple one because that's our color, and it's layers. And mine was layers of physical, and it was layers of the sexual. It was layers of mental. So mine is layers of abuse, and I'll tie it all in because I'm focused on the sexual. When you're in a relationship, and one of the words I would use is intimacy part. Into me, you see. And when you're in a relationship, and the beginning is always rosy, it's always they're nice and they're kind and all this. But as time went on, you know, the years and the levels of abuse. And I would say maybe about this third year or somewhere around in there, I began to have health issues, diabetes, fibromyalgia. And they may say, what is that? Chronic pain. My layers of abuse, where I stayed in it so long, going back, and I fell into this situation where actually I began to be traumatized. I mean, from the guns, and you're heading to church, and he's in the car with the car going left and right, just I'm like a rag doll being here. And I'm so traumatized by the time I get to church, and I'm over like a mega church, children ministry of 500 children. And he was in Sunday school teacher, and all this stuff. But then later on, I'm dealing with my body. I was on Flexeril, morphine, Vicodin, Zola. I am literally trying to function from all the years of this abuse. But I said, out of all that was uncovered, a lot of people don't want to touch on the sexual abuse. And I got to a place with my doctors that they told me that you're going to either live or you're about to die. And when I went through all the mental, a lot of that traumatized me was the times at night when I would come home and he would literally rape me and pin me down and force himself on me. And I was so weak with the fibromyalgia. My body, sometimes I had to leave my work, and I was incapacitated at this point. And he will force himself. I couldn't do anything. I was in chronic pain. Just tears run down. And people don't understand when you'll say, stop, don't do this. Ladies, your no is a no. I didn't understand until I got to therapy, the power of a no, that it was okay to say no. I said no, but that wasn't good enough. It wasn't good enough. And yes, I did try to leave several times. But the turning point when you're in a place where you have a child, I have a daughter, and he got to a place where he got so confident in himself. This is after I had talked to the people at the church and got therapy and went through a lot of things trying to get the help because I knew he needed help. That wasn't healthy. My daughter and I, we had like a split level house, and our room was on one side and in the family area, and then her side is on the other side. So we're in her restroom just doing makeup, laughing. And all of a sudden, my daughter stepped out of the room to go get a brush from her room, step out the restroom to go to her room, and she jumps back in. And I'm looking like, what's wrong? Like she's seen her go. She said, he's standing there with no clothes on. And I was just, I ran out, and yes, he was standing there literally with no clothes on in front of my daughter. And so I got a phone call from one of my sisters later on. And during that time, she told me that, Kathy, go in your room. I think it was a couple of nights later. My daughter had a knife under the bed, under her mattress. So I had to go. I went in the room and I talked to my daughter, and she said that what she's going to do, she said that she was going to hurt him if he come near you again. because she had seen the pushing, the abuse, all that physical stuff, the verbal, very verbal. I think the verbal is harsh too, but the sexual part. And this is what when the enemy, the devil, began to show his face, he began to get comfortable. Although I talked to some of the elders at the church and some of the ones there, when I shared my story with one of the deacons that grabbed me, and I've been speaking at various churches lately about this. And in confidence, I shared with him the story, what happened. I said, I got to go, I can't do this. He said, well, how old is she? And he said, what grade? I said, she's a freshman. He said, you ain't got about 4 more years, just deal with it and go on. That's what was told to me, and I'm like, I can't. Yes, I did leave, but during that time, my daughter went toe to toe with him. And it's been several nights that could have really went a bad way. And I encourage women that oftentimes people say, you ain't see the signs. Sometimes you don't, because they camouflage it so well. So then as you go on and learn, and I lost my mom at 20, so I was so devastated with the first several years of my life, learning about dating, with the grieving of my mother, that, all that was just, I looked at it. But what hurt me was to see him stand in front of my daughter with no clothes. And then when I went to male figures to get advice, I didn't get a good response. They were telling me to stay. And during this time, I slept in my car. I was locked out. And I left, went back and forth. Now, this was my turning point. The sexual, him coming in front of my daughter with no clothes on, advancing. I thank God he didn't do anything to her, but he had already done enough to me. And at that point, I was so weak, I couldn't take care of myself. The doctors wouldn't even allow me mentally. I was so traumatized. The doctors would not allow me to work. I had put myself in that much, trying to be strong, trying to save face for the church, for my friends, for different ones. And so I went through with that, was married about 9 years, and dealt with the abuse, trying to cover up, trying to save face. And it wasn't healthy. Right now, and I share people my story because I'm an open book. I got a disability check. They put me on disability in 7 months. And part of my diagnosis today is PTSD. When I say I was traumatized, I was traumatized. It was horrific. And people often see that when you see victims, you're looking at miracles. I'm a miracle. I mean, the things that I went through and what I seen and I endured during that time, I am blessed to even be here. I was a big banker. I was over the facility of a large church, made big money. But in this relationship, unhealthy, toxic, it cost me something. It cost me my health. It cost me mentally things. But one thing about what has happened, God has restored. He has brought me back around that. Right now, people say, you're everywhere, because God has given me that time to serve. And I would cry, say, God, why you disabling me? He said, I'm trying to enable you. So although I went through that devastation of all that trauma, years of abuse, I'm able now, I'm free to tell my story. I'm free to help other women. I'm free to help other children. I go and talk about bullying prevention. And not only that, years, it even goes back to even being in a church setting. I was over children. And so I would have these mothers that would call me on the phone at the church. And I eventually had to leave. I lost my job being married to him. The church wrote me a letter. I wrote them a letter to help me. And 3 days later, they let me go. And they gave me a service packet because of the conflict. But during my time there, I will pray for the children, the mothers of the of the church that will have children that men will be, their boyfriends are coming in their rooms, messing with their babies. Sexual molestation. That's where it starts. And that's why it's important we have these type of panels to talk about what's going on behind closed doors and why our children are acting out. There are signs and things we don't want to talk. We got the testimonies of talking about what we've been through so we can help somebody else. And if we're not bold enough to say, yes, I was molested at 7 years old by a stepbrother. So my trauma started early. My mother was sick, and by 20, she passed away. And so this is my story. I mean, mine was layers, but someone may be like, can I make it? You can make it. You may have to go through some things. I've had to sleep in my car. You can get out of it. You're going to be talked about. People going to call you crazy. But at that moment, I felt like I was crazy, just to survive. Oftentimes, like when we're in these panels, what I do want to share is a 1-800 number, because oftentimes we talk about it, and you may be listening in or doing a replay, and you like, I'm dealing with this. Well, who do I reach? And we always say, the No More, our organization prevention, and also the YWCA, but there is a 1-800 sexual abuse. It's 1-800-656-4673. That's sexual assault. 1-800-656-4673. Also, we do have a domestic violence victim hotline is 1-800-799-SAFE. Domestic violence, 1-800-799-SAFE. And oftentimes I didn't know where to go, what to do, who to call. During that time, you just don't know. But these people, we're here for you. We're, who the Son set free is free indeed. Yeah. We're telling our testimonies because today we stand and we're free. We can live. Yes, we went through some storms. We went through the rain, but we're here. We made it. And you can make it as well. Know the signs. Talk to someone. Oftentimes, it's not good to talk to everyone. I have had many restraining orders against him, many. And he will still come into the church while I was preaching and intimidate me and scare me. And where I had one church that didn't accept it, they was okay with him. I had another church that covered me. And actually, they covered me so well, he came doing it. I was a fish fry. And what they did was the church knew about it. And I said, well, do y'all want me to leave? They said, no, you're going to stay right here. It was one of my partner churches. And they saw him contacting me, had me to go to the back of the building. They said, call him. I had to restraining order or protection, but I had to call the police to serve it. And so they covered me. I called, the police came, he was served. And that's it. I did leave another state. I went back home, which I am in Alabama now. Sometimes you have to leave, but it's worth it. I left a beautiful home. I left beautiful furniture. I left beautiful things, but my life was more important. I said, he can have it. So don't worry about losing that because God will give it back to you. He will restore. He will give you triple for your trouble. So don't worry about it. You just want to be safe. So thank you. That's my story. God bless you.
Thank you, Miss December, for that presentation. Yes, awesome. So we have April, who is actually Miss March 2024, and she's going to talk to us, share with you about financial abuse.
Hi, everybody. My abuse was sexual, mental, and physical. We were married for 8 years. We had 3 beautiful babies. A lot of what the ladies are talking about, I experienced the gaslighting. He always had a way of saying it wasn't his fault if I didn't do this or didn't do that, it wouldn't be that way. So a lot of the times I got to a point where I really kind of believed that it was my fault. And so I would try to do everything I could and walk on eggshells to please him, to keep him from doing the things that he did. But the truth of the matter is it wasn't me, it was him. And the thing I want to talk about before I get on my topic is knowing the signs. One of the chief of police of Indianola spoke Sunday about his sister, and he was telling about these girls that, if somebody tells you that you're theirs and nobody else's, that's a warning right there. That's letting you know that they are claiming you as their property, and that is totally not okay. You are not anybody's property. So if you feel those, you see the signs are definitely there, and you can look for them in other people. My family noticed it way before I noticed it. It was a lot of isolation, a lot of physical. He would take my phone, so I couldn't call my parents. My parents got me a phone. We lived out of town, so that I could call them when I needed them, and he would take the phone. The night before I left, he told me that he would kill me, that he was going to kill me. And I pray that if the Lord let me live through the night, that I would leave and I would never go back. And I know without a shadow of a doubt that it was the Lord's hand on my life. And just what the lady said about God will give you beauty for your ashes. He will heal you. He will restore you. He will give you everything that's been taken away from you. Mm-hmm. And another thing is, like with your kids, we're showing, when we allow those things to happen, we're showing our kids that it's okay to be treated like that. Mm-hmm. And usually they will follow in your footsteps at some point. Mm-hmm. So the best thing to do for that is just to, get out of there, get some help, get out the best way you can. But my topic is on financial abuse. And this is one of the biggest things with domestic violence, is because they can use that over your head. They, will tell you that, if you leave, you won't be able to make it. You've got kids, and so you worry about that, and you think about stability, but you can't do that. You have to leave and get some help. But anyway, then they will, they do keep them track. Also, if the victims sometimes leave and they don't have any help, like I had family help, thank goodness, they will tend to go back because they don't have any way of supporting themselves and supporting their kids. Sometimes with financial abuse, like you may be dating somebody and, you may be a single mom or may be tough on you, and they'll tell you that, let me help you out just to take the stress off of you. Let me get that bill for you. And then turn around once they've got you in that trap and use that against you. Some other ways of financial abuse is forbidding the victim to go to work, or if they have a job and they'll sabotage their job by causing scenes to, get the victim to lose their job so they have no way. They control how the money is spent, the financial decisions. They don't include them in the financial decisions, don't give you access to the accounts, refusing to go to work. And one of the biggest things that I heard at the end when I finally made up my mind to leave was, you can go and you can get child support, but I'm not going to pay you. I'm not going to take care of you. I'm not going to give you money to take care of you and whoever you're going to be with. But there is help. There is hope. You just have to reach out to someone, get a lawyer, and all of us ladies can attest that you can get through it. You will heal. You will move on, and you will eventually find someone who will really love you, because that is not love. Thank you.
Thank you. Thank you so much. So Kathy touched on how financial abuse, she endured it all, she experienced it all, but she touched on how it caused her to become homeless, and she lost her job. So a lot of people don't realize that financial abuse is domestic violence and how it contributes to domestic violence and all that domestic violence entails. We're going to move along. If you have questions, stick your hand up. If you know how to raise your hand on Zoom, we'll definitely entertain it. I don't know what's going on via Facebook, but we will entertain those too. But we're going to go on. We try to anticipate your questions based on the most common questions that we get. And so one of the questions we get a lot as survivors is, well, why don't you just leave? And so Leslie's going to talk to you about that, and you'll hear that it's not so simple.
Good evening, everyone. Can y'all hear me okay?
Yes.
Okay, great.
Yes, good evening.
All right. So that's the $1 million question. That's the question that even in our current reality, we're asking that question about some of our victims that we're currently helping. This is my day-to-day, hearing from people who are trying to get out. So I'm glad that Cheryl allowed me to get this topic. So one of the main things that I've noticed from experience and just from listening to the ladies that I assist now, fear. Fear is one of the main reasons why the person does not just leave. A person may be afraid of what will happen if they decide to leave the relationship. For one, the isolation, they get used to that. So the idea of inclusion, they have a whole network of family and friends that would be glad to help them if they really knew the depth of what was going on. But it's the isolation of it all that makes the reaching out so awkward in the end when she's ready to leave or he's ready to leave. It's like crossing a river without a bridge. You have been out of connection with people that you generally would connect with. Where do you even begin? And a lot of times by the time someone decides to leave, they've almost created a whole new reality for themselves, unbeknownst to them, because after years of betterment and abuse, you get into a state of mind. It's like the bettering process is a stagnancy. At a certain point of a woman or male enduring abuse after abuse, whether it be sexual, physical, financial, it like Sister Kathy said, it weakens you. And where your get up and go, it just kind of like, where is that ability? Where is that capability? So by the time you've been battered enough, you've stayed more times past that chill you got up your spine when you knew, okay, I shouldn't be here. But you stayed anyway for XYZ reasons, and we're going to go over those. By the time you stayed longer than your stay, that term we heard that was so viral, entanglement, I consider it an entanglement as well in these cases because it's like a knot of a maze. It's for the victim, that's how it feels. Because the initial, like we said in the beginning, it's like a fairy tale. Everything is pleasant. So something in a woman, when they fall in love, I see this a lot, or they get comfortable with their situation, they're vested in that imperfect man. They're vested in him. They've made those vows for better or worse. You know, a lot of times cultural reasons, they'll stay for better or worse, you know, all those different things that obligate us. You've got this nurturing thing that exists in a woman, the little boy in him, when he makes those mistakes, those temper tantrums, sometimes, you know, we pacify him in taking them back, and we don't realize that's the nurturer and the repairer in us basically acting out of order. So when it comes to an abusive relationship, when you get that inkling to leave, it's important to start strategizing leaving. The biggest mistake I see a lot of victims make is they want to tell the abuser, I'm leaving you. I'm done with you, you know. That right there is it's almost like committing suicide in the world of abuse. You have given him several steps ahead of you to knock you off, because a lot of them are not going to see you leave unless it's in a casket, unfortunately. And they don't even realize that they'll actually take it there a lot of times. A lot of them make those threats, and it seems idle after they've said it so many times, and they ain't killed you yet. But let's think about all the women who they were told several times, I'll kill you if you ever leave, and they did end up 6 feet under. It's an unfortunate reality. But, and this all goes into the fear aspect of it. That's the number one reason, is fear of the unknown. That's another thing. A lot of victims are so, like I said, they're familiar with this person. They're familiar with, his hiccups, but the unknown scares them. They don't know, okay, if I leave, then what? A lot of them fear for the safety of their family and friends, and which I encourage that caution, because I've seen family and friends get in crossfires with abusers. Whoever helping this lady leave this man, they're going to get it too. Police that pull up on the scene to be of assistance, they're going to get it too. At the end of the day, that abuser feels like you are snatching their control from underneath them. So anybody can get it. So in deciding to leave, ladies or men, whoever feel afraid to leave, your strength will come from being discreet, playing discreetly. Make sure you leave without notice. Like Sister Kathy, I noticed Sister Kathy said something else that stood out to me, how she left nice furniture and stuff behind. I was quite materialistic when I left my marriage, and I loved my little townhome. I loved everything in that townhome. But after so many different houses we had moved from and to, and me moving to leave and coming back to them, I noticed that was like slowing me down. Like the Bag Lady song by Erykah Badu. I got a whole house of furniture I got to figure out what to do with while I'm trying to. I had to let that stuff go. That stuff is replaceable. God will give you, like she said, he'll restore you and bless you with even better. You just have to shake off all that fear, all those obligations that's making you stay. And I don't care if you a woman and you love that man. There's something within you. There's a motherly, nurturing instinct in you that wants to be the repairer. No matter how many times he black your eye, how many times he slip up and his lust spirit get control of him and he go do some stuff he don't have no business on in the streets, whatever. There's a repairing spirit that a lot of women have, like, but he wasn't like this in the beginning. We just want to get back to that place when it was good, or just having that, seeing the good in them. We generally see the potential in them. So that potential word too will stagnate someone from leaving and why they don't leave. Another one, believing abuse is normal. A person may not know what a healthy relationship looks like, perhaps from growing up in an environment where it was common. I didn't realize I had told a couple of lies. When I first experienced abuse, I remember referencing my first time ever really knowing what it is and really feeling the hurt from it, from witnessing it happen. I thought it was What's Love Got to Do with It, with Ike and Tina, because that's what we was on TV and it was so dramatic. And I guess as life progressed and I started running into some people from my past, I had some flashbacks. It took me to having visuals of people that I hadn't seen to recall, okay, you have seen domestic violence before, and this is how it made you feel. I was a helpless child watching a relative be drugged by her husband, just drugged through the house like a rag doll. Beautiful lady, fixed up well. But after her time with him, she would always look so rough, and because I could hear the screams and I could see a little bit of it. But I remember being too young to really recollect, but I remember though. So I never could make it make sense. I vowed I'd never let a man do me like Ike did Tina. So hello, what I look like months into it, years into it. And I'm a little fighter myself now. I'm swinging, I'm picking up stuff. I'm on the verge of being a killer myself, for real. It was toxic. So getting caught up in that entanglement of the familiarity of it, I didn't see it coming. It snuck up on me. Well, that's what families do, they fight. And you don't tell your business because everybody's going to be back cool. So why get everybody involved anyway? Oh, it was a lot of little toxic thoughts that I had ruminating in my mind that kept me stagnant. So that's another thing I feel like that keeps women from leaving. They kind of downplay the severity of it. They really don't think it get that serious. They're not really serious feels to these kids. Because I'm going to tell you, I was a yeller and a screamer. I didn't mind throwing a fit and saying what I had to say. You done did what you wanted to do. Now I'm going to talk my junk. That was me. So I felt like I was being strong for my kids to be that roaring lion, just barking, just roaring back. I'm not going to go out without a fight. But at the same time, I learned that I don't want them to see me be that one. I thought they were seeing me be strong. Well, yeah, this is what the hand that you're dealt, but at least mama being strong, at least she's holding her ground. But why should I have to? Especially in front of my babies. That's not reality. But that's a lot of people's reality. And we think it's okay. I don't, but in speaking in general, it was a time that I never felt like it was a good thing, but I felt like it was a thing that families get through. They overcome it. Don't put the folks in your business, that kind of stuff. Well, I'm here to tell you, put them folks in your business, ask God for some clarity on that, and move discreetly when you do decide to take that step. The fear that you have it needs to be there because you don't need to leave recklessly. You don't need to be by yourself. You need to have a buddy system. Always have somebody with you, be in communication with a safety contact when you leave. All that other stuff you're worried about, the material stuff, the new job, that stuff is going to come. It's within you. You just make that move. I'm a living witness and testament of that. Another one, I'm not going to say all of them because there's so many reasons why the victims stay. Fear of being outed. A lot of times the abuser will blackmail the victim and kind of, they got intimate secrets with one another or whatever the case may be. They know the weakness. They know what points to hit to put fear in the victim, to fear being outed. This person has control over their personal information because of the prior abuse. Okay, embarrassment or shame. A lot of people, it's difficult for them to admit they've been abused, especially people with certain professions. Listening to the different testimonies from the people I know personally, they come from doctors' wives, detectives' wives, pastors' wives, bishops' wives, school teachers. And I'm not going to just say his wives now. I know a man right now, all his teeth done been knocked out because he won't lead his lady. She knocks all his teeth out. But anywho, but just to say, it's not just the women that's being abused.
Right.
But I can say when the men stay, I notice a lot of them, they have a provision weakness. They worried about her well-being if they leave her. They literally concerned about the well-being of their, and that's real a lot. That's a very common one because you love this person. You want to see them better. So if you feel like you leaving them is the worst thing you could do to them, oh, that's the worst thing I could do. You standing there with your ankle broken and your knee from this person, but you worried about it's a real mental illness that sets in. So the ones that's hard for you to leave, please know you must leave. It's hard, but you must. And you just have to do it strategically. It can be made hard if you're not talking to someone who can help you do it the proper way. And lastly, I'm going to say low self-esteem. When the abuser constantly puts someone down and blames them for the abuse. A lot of times, I know you all probably experienced it or witnessed it. The victim will explain themselves to their blue in the face about stuff they know they're innocent about. It means the world to them for their abuser to get it through their head what a good woman she really is and how she really doesn't deserve this. That's like a power trip. A lot of the victims feel the need to prove themselves and get to a point of getting praised by this person versus condemnation. So back to that entanglement word, that web of stagnancy, all you can do is strategically leave. If you stay stuck in the thoughts of doubt, if you entertain the fear, all of that stuff will have you in a place you don't need to be. You'll be there for years past. Some of you want to leave now. but you feel like, yeah, it ain't gonna happen. If you feel the inkling to leave, you need to leave. And if you need help with that, feel free to call any of us. I don't have the number on me, but I know Miss Kathy quoted it. And then I know Cheryl's probably going to call it out at the end of this live. But we've got several contacts. We even partner with the YWCA as well with assisting women and the safe houses all over the state. There's so many resources, but always feel free to reach out to me or any of us for any guidance you may need if you're needing to leave.
Thank you. Great coverage on your topic. We hope we answered some of the questions that you've had. If you got more about why don't we just leave, I hope she's covered that everything you've heard so far about the physical abuse, the fear in that, emotional and mental and financial reasons, all of that encompassed. I tell people all the time, imagine just pretty much your house burnt down and you got to leave. That's how a lot of domestic violence survivors have to leave. You have to just decide, I'm going to just give everything up for yours just to live. So that's, if you have any more questions about that, we are open to them. You won't offend us. We want to help people understand if as best as we can. We have two more topics that we want to cover tonight. We're trying to do a 90-minute informational about the faces of abuse. So next we have our very own Miss August 2022. She's also our August Miss 2024, and Jacqueline. And Jacqueline is gonna cover how do I help my loved ones when someone calls us and they want to know how to help their granddaughter, their niece, their daughter, their son, their nephew. She's gonna cover that. So fire away, Miss Jacqueline.
Well, good evening to everyone. It is truly a pleasure and an honor to sit on a panel with women and even men that have survived such tremendous pain and hurt and, struggle in our lives. What we have to look at for the most part, I'm from Mississippi originally. And when you come from a certain lineage, there are certain expectations of you. I look at it as if building a foundation and then putting that structure on that foundation, the investment that's made into our lives from, the very beginning when we're born. But then there are times when there are hiccups in our lives. The choices that we make. Can you hear me? Can you hear me? Okay. The choices that we make, sometimes, they shape our future, they shape our lives. And I remember an older lady saying to me, she said, look at the back and look at the ground. At that time, I was 21 years old, so I didn't really understand what she meant. But then when I put those two words together, look at that background. And I think sometimes even in what I would share with any person, from a child going forward, vet the people that impact your life, whether it's your friend, whether it's a family member, because, all of our kinfolk, ain't our skin folk, as they put it, we're born into certain situations. So my conversation would be, make sure that you first surround yourself with a village that really loves you, that cares for you. I look at our generations now, we have the baby boomers, we got the Gen Zers, the millennials, we have all of these different segmented groups. But the principles of life never, ever change, should never change for us. They used to teach us what goes on in your house stays in your house. I think that is one of the worst principles that we can live by, because really the message that it sends is, yes, the good things, we tend to talk about those, but those things that hurt us and that can destroy us, we want to cover those things up. It's just like piling dirt under a rug. Eventually you'll see the lump, and it will cause people to stumble in their lives. I was married to a pastor, a very charismatic pastor, wonderful person at heart, and still is to this day. And, I am a survivor, but I am also a victor. That situation did a lot, not just for me, but it did a lot for the people around me. It gave me a ministry. I was never able, afraid to talk to people or to share. I've always been very transparent. And that's one thing I want to talk about with our children in particular. As older, as adults, a lot of what we have gone through, it has already shaped us. But we do have the opportunity to shape those coming behind us. These kids are exposed to social media. Parents, grandparents, aunts, uncles, know what your children are digesting. We want them to be very smart. We brag about their IQ, but what about their emotional intelligence? What about them being able to make proper selections in their lives? Those are the things that we got to take it back, concentrate on. You remember when grandma used to take care of everybody on the street? She knew what every child was capable of, what you would do. You were respectful. But now we have been so lax and so free that we have allowed the enemy to just take target practice in our homes, in our communities. We have to take our villages back, because when we don't take our villages back, we end up with the pain that we're expressing tonight. Kids that don't listen, or just so happen, and it's not always what the choices they make. The devil comes just dressed up so nicely, and he deceives us, and then we fall into situations. So we need to prepare them that everything is not going to be a bed of roses. What if you are touched inappropriately? Because most of the time youngsters are exposed under the age of 18. It starts very young. And just like we tell them, don't allow people to hit you and hurt you, we also need to teach them, don't you hurt other people. And these are the ways that you can hurt them. In our schools, in our churches, oftentimes our churches have just become so whatever. I love church. I love my pastor because I love the realness and the genuineness that he brings forth. But there are times, just like Pastor Kathy said, she was in a church, and this person said, stay 4 more years. So literally what they said was, accept the abuse 4 more years. There's no value in accepting abuse. And this is the message that we have to get across to people. I don't care what type of abuse it is, there is absolutely no value in it. And it becomes generational. Just like the old lady said, look at the background. That is something that is a learned behavior. Yes, it can be in the bloodline, but ladies, gentlemen, every single day, I pray for my children, and this is the conversation I have, is that God cuts and destroys the things that were toxic in your bloodline. We have to be transparent with our kids. This sugarcoating about, oh, don't do that. Let's have real conversations about sex, about abuse, about lying, about being promiscuous early in life. Because if you do it, do not expect your children not to do it. And we're now embarking upon generations of people that have experienced this trauma in their lives. And this is beginning to be passed on. So first, we need to be transparent. Let's talk about it like we're doing tonight. I'm an open book. I'm just like the rest of the ladies on the panel. I came from a tremendous lineage. I saw men treat women with utmost value. But I got into a situation where I was devalued. A gun was put to my head. My 14-year-old stepped in front of me and saved my life that night. And that was the child. I said, well, I'd already had 2 kids, and I'm like, I guess the 3rd kid coming along. But his name is Matthew. And I always looked at Matthew as a gift to me for some unknown reason. But that particular night, I experienced why God gifted me with that young child. But then the journey didn't end there when their father was arrested and had to do 7 years behind bars. And again, even in our nurturing, as Leslie said, I'm negotiating with the DA. Oh, this is going to hurt my children. Oh, behind closed doors after I was almost murdered. But guess what? The Spirit spoke to me and said, take your hands off of that. This is a timeout for you to grow, regroup, and for your children to be released of the curse. So people, we have to consciously decide. We're going to talk about it. We're going to teach others about this demon of abuse on whatever level it shows up. And when we talk about it, what we do is we expose the enemy for what he truly and really is. And if we get to it early enough within our communities, our congregations, our families, we become the trusted person. People need to know they can trust you to help lead them out of this particular wilderness. And when we continue to do that, we become the Harriet Tubmans of the abuse. We lead them. And then oftentimes, whether they want to come or not. But again, like Leslie said, we have to be strategic because we know we have people that will take other people's lives when they want to leave them. So we have to equip ourselves methodically on how to help them. Let's start with the young, those that are already in abusive situations. Let's have those private conversations with them. We have to teach them how to have a poker face until they're on the other side of this thing. And I just want to say to Cheryl, thank you for the vision. Thank you for allowing us to expose ourselves and our stories. I'm not ashamed, ladies. And the beauty of it is my ex-husband and I have absolutely no bitterness. That just goes to show you how good God really is. Because when people want to change, they will change for the better. The only thing I ask my children, don't be bitter, because that bitterness will become your cancer. It will allow you to do things to other people that were done to you. So we are a family still on a journey of healing. But guess what? It is such a beautiful journey. And I'm always ready to share. And I appreciate you all.
Thank you. Awesome job delivering that information. I often tell people when they ask me that they have to get tired. They have to have their very own no more moment. Like each of us who have presented tonight, we've had our own no more moment, and we got tired and we left that day, that night, that morning, whatever time it was. But unfortunately, I have to say to a grandmother or an aunt or even a mother, you can't get tired for them, but you just got to hang there and love them and let them know you're going to be there when they decide, when they get tired and they come out. So thank you again, Jacqueline. That was excellent. And last on our agenda tonight, we're trying to do a 90-minute informational on the basis of domestic violence. Is Ken Featherstone, and although he's not a survivor, he is married to a survivor, and so I thought it was just important to start adding this question, this topic to our panels about domestic violence. If you are dating or married to a domestic violence survivor, so he speaks so eloquently about this, and so I want you all to hear him too. I think it's very important that you hear him. Thank you. Yeah.
Good evening, everybody. I'm Ken Featherstone. What I have to add and the value of what I have to say comes with a different perspective from a male's perspective. I met Cheryl some years ago and we dated, and we both were transitioning out, coming out of a previous marriage, and she was too. So I knew her story. She told me of the abuse in a previous marriage, and didn't deter me at all, of course. Hey, it is what it is. Everybody has a story. Everybody has a background. You know, I just saw the best in her. You know, she wasn't what she came out of. She was so much more than that. And that's what attracted me to her. But there would be times, we would be together, and it may be a bug flying up against the window, or it may be the wind blowing the patio furniture over at the back of the house, and she would just jump, And why are you jumping? You with me, my ex kind of got in my head about something you said. I'm like, even if he did, you with me. In order for him to get to you, he got to come through this Marine right here, and it ain't happening. So why are you jumping? So, this would happen, from time to time. And I ain't lying. Shirley hears something and she breaking, elbows and booty hole. She gone, and it would get to the point after, hey, I'm telling her who I am, and not only that, I'm the youngest brother of 2 other Marines. I not only am I strong, I roll strong, it's just a matter of a phone call. So, and over just trying to build a confidence, and it would get to the point, this persisted, and it would get annoying to me, just seeing a jump like that around me. It almost seemed like you don't trust that I got your back. And I'm just praying one day you'd never have to see this German Shepherd in action to protect you. So we were, just doing the no more and the calendar moment. We did it for this year, this past Sunday, 2023. And Yolanda, the first sister that spoke tonight, she said something. She had moved on and got in a relationship and remarried. And she said the same thing, her husband has said to her, that she, is startled sometimes about things. And Leslie said, the unknown scares you, My wife shares this story about how the guy told her, you never know. One day, I don't care what, don't ever get lax, because that's the day I come and that's the day I get you, and that's the day I kill you. So this gets into the psyche. Like you mentioned, being under this and exposed to this, especially over a period of time, it gets into your psyche. Even after you're gone and Cheryl is removed from that situation and thriving, but something still sticks with you. Something still is residual. So hearing Yolanda speak about this, I finally saw myself. I look, I'm the shield. I'm that dude, and you with me, you say. But I saw something from myself from a different perspective. Drop all the macho stuff, drop all of who you really are, but just see it from a different angle. This is a person that has dealt with something, and they're still trying to adjust to it. Maybe you need to show a little more understanding. Maybe you need to show a little bit more patience. Drop your annoyance. It ain't about you. It ain't never been about me. It's about, if you really love her and you really are covering, cover her mentally, cover her emotionally. I got you physically, but do I have you that way? So year after year, and we have these dialogues like this, these moments like I see Cheryl getting more and more confident. Well, conversely, year after year, I see myself becoming more understanding. So we're all growing. We're all growing, and it's a journey. So I'm so proud of all the ladies of No More. Like you mentioned, Rayshawn, man, you're talking about a worthy cause. Jackie, I mentioned you, as you said it as well. This is, I think this is God's will. This is a God organization. This is healing. This is that balm in Gilead right here. When you talk it, you've been bottling it up for so long. Listening to Cheryl, we heard someone long time ago say that the testimony you scared to share could be somebody else's breakthrough.
Right.
But and what you know what you've been through, but like you said, the shame, the guilt, all of that comes along with it, and you hold it inside. And some little sister like the ones we see on this line right now, listening, because they're inquisitive, because they're going through something similar. And they need to see and hear the wisdom of you sisters right here. And God bless y'all. Thank you.
We want you all to know in that we're not a bunch of Debbie Downers. We are not just survivors. We are thrivers. We are conquerors. We are overcomers. And that the other side of domestic violence is, it appears scary to someone who is going through it, but you're looking at the other side. You're looking at the other side. And I hope Ken can attest that I'm not a Debbie Downer. I am improved. I'm not so scary anymore, but I did jump for a long time. I tell people this all the time. I didn't sleep through the night until after meeting Ken. That's honestly. I got up almost every other hour. That's how I lived for about 10 years before meeting him. So, but I'm healed, and I keep claiming that I am healed. We are all healed, and if you're still in it, you can get healed. There is help at 1-800-799-SAFE. And if you just want a good girlfriend to hold your hand while you're going through it, talk to you every day, because the domestic violence hotline won't. The people at YWCA, they won't. We will. It's so many of us. We're going into our 6th year of the calendar of domestic violence survivors. So every day, every hour, you got somebody within no more that you can talk to. We wake up in the middle of the night for you. So if you know anybody, if you're going through it, know anyone who's going through it, you got friends. We can pray, we can talk, and we know all the resources to get you help too. Even lawyers, someone mentioned tonight, I know, financial abuse affects us, and you may have to leave with nothing. I left with nothing, but there are a lot of lawyers who will take this on free, and we have a list of those. So please call No More. Our website is nomoredvorabuse.org, and all the information is there. And again, thank you, Brother Basilis Crawford, for this opportunity. Any opportunity we get to spread awareness, we embrace it. We listen, we appreciate it. We like to say before I leave that domestic violence is 365 days a year, 24/7. It does not take a break for holidays, birthdays, special occasions, not even for October Domestic Violence Awareness Month. Someone every day is being abused. Someone every day, and the numbers are increasing every year. Every day, 3 women die from domestic violence at the hands of an abuser. So these are our stories, and thank you. We hope they are encouraging someone to leave.
Thank you, Mrs. Featherstone. All of the presenters, Yolanda, Miss Yolanda, Leslie, April, Kathy, Rashawn, Jacqueline. To hear your testimonies is just heartbreaking. I feel that the presenters did a great job with not only sharing your stories, but with exposing the different faces of domestic violence abuse, which that's why we call it the different faces. It's my desire that others view and ponder on the telltale signs that were mentioned this evening. Domestic violence is like a multiple layer onion: physical, mental, sexual, so many different aspects. Someone mentioned if it's devastating to you, it's devastating enough to leave. We talked about gaslighting, mentioned that you are nobody's property. I think that was Miss April that said that. Don't worry about the materialistic items, let those things go. It's like a burning house. Don't try to be a nurturer for somebody that's abusing you. All of these points, I pray that it reaches somebody that's in the situation or that's about to get into the situation. Taking back the village. You all are victors. Not only you survivors, you're victors as well. And also, like Brother Featherstone mentioned, really powerful to see it from that angle, drop the macho and look from a different angle and truly cover your survivor. So there was a message for everybody in every angle dealing with domestic violence tonight. You all did a wonderful job, and I appreciate you. Again, I thank you so much for your transparency and your will to revisit, one of the darkest times of your lives. And it's customary, since we started with prayer, we're going to close with prayer, and that'll end tonight. So please join me for a closing prayer. Heavenly Father, the great I am, we come to you in praise and gratitude for allowing these brave women to come forth with a mighty message for those that are enduring the turmoil and pain of a domestic violence situation. We realize that even though we heard the testimony, some can't comprehend the pain that these survivors and victors had to overcome. But through your grace and mercy, these survivors, or miracles, as Ms. Kathy mentioned, are able to share their stories of courage to bring awareness to others that may be experiencing the same trials and tribulations. We thank you for their salvation. We thank you for their wisdom. And we pray you surround all of us with your protection and blessings in this cruel world, so that we may withstand the schemes and ploys of all wickedness. In the name of the Heavenly Father, great architect of all things and purveyor of righteousness, we say amen.
Amen.
Good night. Thank you, ladies, for serving tonight. Thank you for your time.
Thank you.
You're welcome. Thank y'all.
Love y'all.
Thank you.
I
Love
love
you.
y'all too.
Good night.